Hi, Canaan Church. I'm standing in front of St. George's Towers with 3 new blocks of 738 households. There are a lot of renovation work going on right now and people are starting to move in. It is a 5-minute walk of about 400-meter distance between Canaan Church and St. George's Towers. We want to welcome our new neighbors in our estate, and we plan to do so by what we call Community CPCS. By now, you should be familiar with CPCS. Converse, pray, care, and share. A simple yet systematic strategy to bring people to Christ. We introduced personal CPCS 2 years ago, and now we're going to take CPCS to the next level by doing Community CPCS. Can you see the green building with the green rooftop over there? That's our church, Canaan Church. And we want to do Community CPCS in this estate. The purpose of Community CPCS is very simple. We want Canaan to welcome the residents of St. George's Tower and make Canaan Church known to them. There's a particular equation as it relates to how we live that I would like for us to think about. Proximity equals opportunity and responsibility. We all know that loving God expresses itself in actions. God loves us and He acts. He has now given us an opportunity and a responsibility to a new community of residents in close proximity to us. The CPCS strategy can be extended and applied to reach a community. As we do Community CPCS, we hope to hear the residents of St. George's Towers echo Matthew 25:35. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Our prayer is that St. George's Towers will encounter Jesus eventually as we take the step of faith to start from stranger to neighbors. So we start our Community CPCS with a goal, from strangers to neighbors. And there are 3 steps to achieve this goal. Number 1, every cell group adopts a segment of the block at St. George's Towers. Number 2, every cell member has an opportunity to apply CPCS. And number 3, St. George's Towers residents know Canaan exists. It seems to me that this idea of proximity equals opportunity and responsibility is far more important than what we often consider. Or at least proximity as gospel opportunity is something that is easy to forget. Many of us are quite familiar with the story of the Good Samaritan as recorded in Luke chapter 10. It's about the parable of a man who was robbed, stripped, and beaten by the robbers and was left half dead. A priest saw the half-dead man along that road and passed by on the other side of the road. Then a Levite came by and saw the half-dead man also and passed by on the other side of the road. Finally, a Samaritan came, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He helped him out of his wounds, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And the next day he gave some money to the innkeeper to take care of him and promised to come back to repay him more if the innkeeper had to spend more to take care of the man. That's why this parable is called the Good Samaritan. What prompted this parable from Jesus was when the lawyer was trying to justify himself when Jesus agreed with him about the command to love your neighbor as yourself. So he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" The lawyer, being a Jew himself, must be shocked when Jesus told this story that it's the Samaritan who had helped the half-dead man, not the Jewish leaders. Then Jesus asked the lawyer, "Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, you go and do likewise. I don't want you to miss a very important point here in this story. It is not about our obligation to love our neighbors or to help a stranger in need or going an extra mile for a stranger. Jesus asked at the end of the parable, who proved to be a neighbor to the man, rather than to answer the lawyer, who is my neighbor? In other words, to whom must I be a neighbor to? The residents of St. George's Towers may not be our next door neighbors. In fact, they are actually strangers to us. We do not know what their needs are to meet them. But those are not important for now. What's important is the mindset that we want to begin with. Are we willing to be a neighbor to the residents of St. George's Towers? What barriers stand in our way to embrace this mindset, or reasons not to embrace proximity equals opportunity and responsibility? Is it spiritual pride, selfishness, lack of love, risk factor, busyness, insecurity, assumptions, or comfort zone? Do we see elements of the Levite, or the priest, or the lawyer in our heart? Has God providentially placed us in close proximity to someone or a community whom we have not embraced? All three of these men saw a stranger who had been robbed. But in a sense, they really didn't see the same thing. There's a principle of life to ponder. What I am determines what I see. And what I see will determine what I do. I pray as we embark our community CPCS with the goal from strangers to neighbors, we will truly make the residents of St. George's Towers feel really welcome and make Canaan Church known to them. This whole month in your CG time, your CG leader will help you learn three things. 1. Some general information about St. George's Towers. 2. Our welcome plan and timeline. 3. The ways to achieve our community CPCS objectives. You will spend time in prayer, asking God to go before us, to prepare the ground, to soften our hearts, and to tear down strongholds. I'm asking that your cell group atmosphere is one of faith and excitement as we start community CPCS. Let's encourage and rally one another as we move. Will you? May the Lord bless us as we respond in obedience.